except Sunday.
All right, you're live.
Hey, everybody. Thank you again. Glad to see you with us today here on Forward Focus Thursday. As we're starting out today, we are live. Want to make sure everyone please takes the time to do as we always do, to like and share this this post with your friends and your family and everyone, to let them know how, just let them know how much of a blessing it is for us to have them be a part of what we're doing, as it is a blessing to have you be a part of what we're doing. So please like and share this post. Want to thank our wonderful team. Want to thank our AV team, as always, Reverend Pace and Sister Frey and Brother Lavender, and all the behind the scenes people as well. Want to thank the great co-host, as always, Reverend Stephen Cousin Jr., Dr. Michael A. Cousin Sr., Bishop Philip R. Cousin Sr. Just glad to have everybody with us today. We're going to have a good time today talking about a few different things. But as we open up and start off, Steve, if you don't mind, just open us up in prayer.
Gracious Eternal Master, we thank you for today. We thank you for allowing us to come together. We ask you that you continue to be with us, dwell your spirit upon us and around us. Let it be a fruitful conversation. These are all the blessings and praises we sing in your son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Steve. So everybody, as we start out, how's everybody doing today?
Fine.
I go for my second shot tomorrow, so I'm ready to get it over with. Whatever happens, happens.
Oh, it's tomorrow. Okay. And Dad, you had yours yesterday.
I had my Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay.
Yep.
How'd it go?
Very good. No problems at all.
No problems at all. That's a good thing.
None.
And Mike, you having your second one soon?
Yeah, the 13th.
Okay, that's good. And I'm having mine on the 17th.
They finally opened up the shots here for clergy. So they've gone to phase 3.
Okay. Here it's I don't know. I don't know what it is here. It just is what it is here. I don't know what phase we're on here. I think it's just still geared towards your 65 and overs. And they opened it up to educators recently, so that's a good thing. And just trying to get it out to everybody. And I say, as I said before, if you get a chance, the opportunity, everyone, please get your vaccination. It's very important that we do so. But today, as we talk about our subjects and topics today, one of the things we're going to talk about Lent, because we are in the season of Lent. We had a great Black History Month. Lent started a couple of weeks back. Now we're full blown into the Lenten season, getting ready for Easter. Talk about a few aspects of Lent. But I also want to open up by asking everyone their thoughts on these sweeping changes in voting policies that the different states are trying to implement. Just your random thoughts about it.
Did you expect anything less? This always happens every time. Look at what happened in 2008, where you had record voter turnout, and you saw the next election where gerrymandering really started to occur, and how they started gutting sections of the Voting Rights Act. Same thing happened in the 60s, 70s. So this is no different, where they feel that the people is having more of a say, more control. When you look at that absentee ballot, now with no excuse ballot, being able to do mail-in ballot, that actually favors Democrats. So of course, Republican states are going to try to, change the game, so to speak, because they know if it's a fair election, they simply don't have the numbers to actually win. So this is no surprise.
Okay.
It just proves that
It's not anything new. This we're recycling old ways of doing things. Every time there is even an attempt to level the playing field, those persons who want to remain in charge, and remember, this nation has been ruled and run by old, rich white men. And how Trump has persuaded the blue collar, untrained white community that he's with them, but he is a part of that old line grouping. But it's really, really interesting to see what the Supreme Court's going to do now that it's stacked, because there are over 250 cases in state legislatures trying to suppress and change the voting regulations. They will do that constantly, 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 until we put something in there permanent. There's very little opportunity for any voting rights legislation to pass in the Senate as long as they have that filibuster rule, because you're never going to get the enough 10 senators to make 60 senators from the Republican side to override the veto. And so we're going to go in for another long stretch of agonizing and suffering. My major concern is, how do we break this cult attitude that is prevailing in 30% of our nation? A cult worse than what Jim Jones had. I don't know what kind of lemonade they're serving or what kind of tea they're serving, but it is horrible the way they still believe and still foster all of the kind of conspiracies that make the passing of laws in each state legislature so easily done. There must be some way we could try to transform. And as where are the good folk? There aren't anybody in the very few people in the legislatures, especially in the federal legislature, in the House Representatives, in the Senate, who really stand up and say that the big lie that the former president had is what's causing 90% of the problems. Until we get some people to speak up and not be flip-flopping like Cruz and the man from South Carolina, Lindsey Graham. They're two of the worst folk in the world. And the young one, Josh Hawley, who claims to be so brilliant and running for president, he and Ted Cruz trying to see who's going to pick up the mantle from Donald Trump and pick up these 30% of the hardcore Republican racists and use them as a launching pad for the nomination. It is terrible. It's going to take real effort on our part, because there are a number of folks we're going to have to get out and make them vote. What we saw happens when we make them vote. Georgia is a good example. When Stacey Abrams did an excellent job of corralling the votes and getting folks out to vote, and it alarmed them, but it also ought to give us a shot in the arm. My ophthalmologist I saw this morning is a bona fide Orthodox Jew, but he is in favor of the Democratic Party. He said he's glad that a Jew won in Georgia for the legislature, for the Senate, and glad that the Warnock won. He said, but Warnock would have an easier time than the Jew would have. Now, it's beginning to rattle in both places to see what can happen. So that if the Jews get away and the Black folk get away, maybe we can do something about changing some of the laws that are happening, because it could not have happened in Georgia if it were not some kind of coalition. Some of the Jews, some of the white folks came along for Stacey Abrams and her group, not only by herself, but the group that she formed and the other groups of getting out to vote really did a job. What would happen if this was done in all of the major areas where we are heavily populated? What kind of change would we have? And what difference could we make in what's happening in the state legislatures if we would vote on the down ticket as much as we vote for the president, and change some of these state houses, change some of the state representatives and state senates? Because we haven't seen nothing yet till they start redistricting, until they start dividing and gerrymandering and doing all the things going to change the district rules, we're going to see a number of new kind of persons who get elected because they're going to change all of the redistricting for the congressional districts to make certain that we will still be suppressed no matter how much we vote.
I think the key is, as Dad hit upon, is a continuing of voter education among our people. We just can't have a one-shot deal. Like in 2008, there was such a political fervor when we saw Barack Obama, and people came out in numbers. We've got to continue to keep that wave going if we want to see real change. It has to be sustainable. I think that what we're seeing now brings to mind a quote that Lyndon Johnson, President Johnson said. They say, if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. And so what we have there is a con man that's setting out some falsehoods, making it seem as if his livelihood is being threatened when all we're asking for is equity. We're asking for fairness. And I think it is through the political process. We're learning the process. And of course, when you learn the process, they're going to change the rules of the game. As my nephew said, should we be surprised that they're going to change some of the rules for the fact that they've seen and they've witnessed how there's a terrible and a fearful thing to see people coming together and learning and working together. It's something we're going to learn that we can't do it by ourselves. It must be a continued coalition. Now, that's the problem. When you're going to have to learn to accept and embrace some things that may not be favored in your community. That's a whole nother subject right there. But, we're looking at in terms of being able to keep our people awake, informed, and involved, because they're already guessing for 2022. They're already planning what they wish to do. This is just one step in the foundation that they're putting together in terms of trying to overturn things. Lindsey Graham just listed that if the House is turned to the Republican Party again, then you could bet you're going to see impeachment hearings begin against Kamala Harris. So that tells you right there that they've already started a game plan. We must continue to push and to be involved and stay active.
And I'll just add to that too, where I think for, those who are in power now, especially for the Democratic side, where you saw this fervor about getting rid of Donald Trump, but you also saw the promises that were made regarding stimulus checks, the elimination of student loan debt, raising the minimum wage, talking about the Voting Rights Act. And if none of that gets passed because of, Senate rules, what have you, then what's going to be the talk in midterms in 22 or 24, where you could say we're engaged, look, we voted for this, but nothing happened. And that's how people can be disengaged too. I think that, there are going to have to be some hardline decisions where we just can elect people and then nothing happens too. So I think for us, it has to be that balance, that line as to holding our representatives accountable, but this is what we elected you for. But we just can't keep playing the same game where we just keep changing players, but the game remains the same too. So if nothing happens in this legislative agenda, if they can't pass minimum wage, if they can't pass the For the People Act, if they can't do anything with student loans, then what chance do we stand in midterms or for presidential election in 24?
Well, I think it comes when that's where education comes in, because it's hard to get to those issues when you're still trying to recover from one of the major pandemics of our age. There was no plan in place for the rollout. There was no plan in place for the implementation of putting vaccines in arms. We have to look at and to understand that although you say you have a majority, you don't have a majority. It's going to continue. You have gridlock right now, especially in the Senate, where they've had to make some compromises in order to get some things done. I think that persons need to understand in terms of the political process, politics is all about compromising. You're not going to get everything, but if you can get a piece of it, that in itself is considered a victory. And I think we as a people need to understand there are some things that there are goals to be attained, and then there are goals that can be achieved. One thing we know that with the student loan debt, that's been bounced around. I would love to see that pass because Lord knows, although I didn't have any debt, say amen, somebody else can put it on me. I would like to get it, amen, amen. But, I think that when we talk about, let's look at the things that are achievable. Minimum wage. That should, I mean, it makes no sense. Minimum wage now is $7.25 an hour. That is just enough to get you gas money. You can't expect persons to live off of that. And secondly, I think the other thing you were saying about the stimulus checks. Yeah, but there's no such thing as a free lunch. We know that we give it away now. We're going to pay for it in the end. What happens with that? I think I think it comes with having an agenda and to continue to teach your people. This is a process. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. Better yet, it's a relay that we must learn to work together and achieve those things, building upon. What is the end game? What is the end goal? I mean, that's what the educational piece comes in.
Well, and everybody who's watching today, thank you for watching. Make sure you drop something in the comments. Give us some thumbs up, some hearts, some likes. But please drop something in the comments too, because we do read the comments. I have them pulled up right on my screen right here. We read the comments. So please let us know you're out there. If you want us to talk about anything or touch on anything, drop us a comment, and it's a strong possibility we will bring it up. So please, let's get the comments going if you want to. The thing that got me, y'all, the one thing that really got me about the bill in Georgia was, and I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I thought it was a joke. It said that part of the bill says it's a misdemeanor now, if the bill passes, to give food or water to anyone standing in line to vote. That could be a misdemeanor. So that's obviously towards communities where voting lines are very long and people have to leave or come from work to vote or go to vote on the way to work, and they're not even allowing, or they don't want to allow any food or any water. So just the audacity to do that is just amazing to me, that they would even try that. It's really sad on so many levels.
Well, it shows you that they're going to pick and pick and pick until they just pretty much chisel away of having anything of worth that'd be beneficial to anyone. That's why it's important for us to have these discussions with our people and with various communities, so you can work these things out and see in a united effort that the common goal is the betterment of community, and not just one community, but for the betterment of all.
And you were talking about pandemics, Mike, and I'll leave it alone at this one. We faced two global pandemics. One was worse than the other. As bad as coronavirus was, the pandemic that calls itself Donald Trump is far worse than the one that coronavirus was.
And I think that's what people need to see, Joe.
Yes.
I mean, persons may talk about what we're doing now, but do you all not realize what we just experienced? 4 years of sheer, complete confusion, chaos, and hell.
Like our favorite movie, Mike, Idiocracy.
It was just horrible. I mean, to think about it now, they're even denying that it was an insurrection. You had a sitting senator, senators, who encouraged that stuff to come out and to be involved in that foolishness. Lives, I mean, this is crazy. And had the roles reversed, had it been persons of color doing that, man, there wouldn't be enough body bags or enough funeral homes to make those funerals. And I mean, think about it. Yesterday in the report, people need to hear this stuff, where it was intentional that they had a 3-hour delay before they even contacted and had the National Guard to come and to quell that foolishness. So that tells you that persons, I think we have an ability to forget stuff real quick. And I really don't want to experience that again, nor do I want to see my children or anyone experience that foolishness again. Right now, we have an opportunity to change and to work at some real change.
Well, we got a question um, from one of our viewers too. Thank you so much, Sister Starhawk. Uh, I know who she is, even though the name is Starhawk on there. She asked the question: is this simply just racism unfiltered?
Yes,
Absolutely.
Yes, yes, yes.
yes.
But here's the problem. Problem is many people just don't want to see it or don't want to admit that it's there, and they want to act like everybody is you know like we can all be kumbaya and all that kind of stuff. But there's really deep-seated problems that aren't going away anytime soon, and problems that a lot of people don't want to go away anytime soon.
Well, people don't want to address it because by them addressing it, meaning that they would have to compromise or give up something or even to acknowledge their part in it. So, with all of that being said, it's easier to try to sweep it underneath the rug to actually deal with those feelings, and it ends up manifesting. And I think that the acting FBI director, especially with domestic terrorism, saying that now it's metastasizing across the country in terms of what's actually happening. Where there was even a threat at the Capitol building, I want to say yesterday, where they had to shut down for a few hours.
No, it's
This
I think it's today, Steve.
It's today.
so here it
Today,
is.
yep.
Here it is again. So this is because we have not really had an honest conversation. They have not been willing to acknowledge their part, even as far as talk about reparations. They don't want to even really have that conversation because they want to admit, what they did to us since the genesis of this country. So until we really to actually have those conversations and really deal with it, we're always going to have these issues. We're always going to have these problems.
America, I mean, the African American community has been America's dirty secret. When we look at another community at the close of World War II, well, prior to World War II, they took one community and they put them in camps, internment camps. After the war, they apologized to them for that treatment and helped them with business loans to reestablish their businesses. They have done stuff to us that is just heinous. They have raped us mentally, physically, tried to do it spiritually. They have destroyed our businesses, our homes, and to have someone say that is there racism? I saw something interesting just yesterday. I knew about it, but I had to see it for myself again. One of the major authors of children's books, Dr. Seuss, racist. A picture that he drew about nigger in the woodpile. And he had all the pictures of black men with the red, big, bubbly red lips, bald, and with the mid-range drift, just sitting there smiling, and had a white man coming in to pick which one he wanted for his woodpile. And I said, it's even in terms of, I used to wonder, I should think it was maybe to myself, but I'm sure others can maybe thought this, to watch the cartoons, the depiction of us in cartoons, of how they were able to reinforce that foolishness. And we started to doubt our own abilities. Yeah, it's racist. Our whole history, our whole country is based on racism. That's one of the major pillars of this nation, racism. If America really researched its history truthfully and objectively, we'd be in a far better place than where we are now. But we perpetuate a lie which perpetuates a system which is wrong and which denies equity, racial equity, to persons across the board. It's just wrong. And so this is just something, yeah, we got to have a real conversation, but we're afraid to have that conversation for some of the things that we're going to learn.
It's hard to have a real conversation with people that you know who are really have no intention of standing up where it really counts. I got really exhausted dealing in the ecumenical circles, talking to all these folk who could say what was wrong and how bad it was, and go right back to their communions, to their churches, and perpetuate even larger what's going on. It's going to take the kind of confession and action where words really don't matter, but deeds are going to have to matter. They're to do things. I have almost gotten to the point where discussions don't make much difference anymore. They really don't make much difference. You know, it is hard. It is hard to change some of the hardcore folk who really think that they own the world and really think that they just giving you a chance to be a participant in the world. And when you do go, oh, you're doing so nice. Like, what else do you expect? You know, your children are, oh, they're smart. Well, what do you expect? Nobody gonna come to you and say what your children, what you're doing and what your church is doing. It is because most of the original sin and the lasting sin over 400 years in this country is that Black folk will always be subordinated to what white racist dominance thinks they ought to be. And the bad part about it, a few folk get up and speak out, and just like with Trump, who I know that some of the folk were bad, but I never thought I'd see 30% of the folk such die-hard, open voice kind of racists who really have no regard for nothing else but just what this one man says and how they're gonna run. You talking about trouble. Stephen, your generation son, Michael, your generation, Joe, your generation, you all gonna have to deal with it. I thought we had dealt with it, but lo and behold, I find out, like I told you before, I go to bed at night, I wake up, and I think I'm right back in 1960. We went through all this in 1960. Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights and all the Act in 64. And we're right back where we were. How far have we come since 1964? I remember when Brian Gumbel, I don't know how many of you remember when Brian Gumbel had the Today Show. Mm-hmm. One of the first things that came on in the morning, that was the precursor for these early morning shows. And on the 25th anniversary, Brian Gumbel asked the head of the Muslims to come and ask me to come, and Farrakhan. And when he asked me, what difference do you see now and what was 25 years before? I said, the difference I see is 25 years ago, you wouldn't be sitting up here having this, and I wouldn't be sitting here next to you. But now I look back and we ain't come no further along than we were back there in 1988. Think of it. Same thing, same problems, same difficulties, same hurdles, same backlashes, same losses. But the bad part about it is how many of our folk have accepted it as a rule of life and don't do anything about trying to really pick up and change it. The Black church has to be far more impactful in the changing of what's happening in our communities than we have in the past 10 years.
Hey, Dad, we got a good question from Sister Marquita Jones. Shout out to Marquita. She says, how have recent events changed how you work and interact with others? You know, for those that may be the only Black person in the room, or one of the few Black persons in the rooms, how does this change and working in interaction?
Well, I tell you, I've learned to always let persons know that I'm aware of who I am and whose I am.
Yes.
Case in point, when I attended Boston University, Joe, amen, Daddy, amen,
Yep.
I stayed in a house that was predominantly white.
As did I.
And there was one occurrence where this white student, we were talking, and he was from Louisiana. And he rubbed my head, patted my head. And I stopped him. I said, excuse me. I said, I want you to know, I know what you're doing. I said, you are trying to say that I'm less than you, that I'm your boy. But let me tell you something. I said, let me tell you something your people didn't know. We knew this stuff. Although we worked in your kitchens and we worked in your homes, there were some things that we did you didn't know. Like grind up glass and put in your food or spit in it. Or we took stuff that you know that you never had. And we used some of your things in order to achieve what we had. I said, so I want you to know, we know, I know what you're doing. I just want you to know, we know what you're doing too. He had a look on his face. An hour later, he came and apologized. I said, no, you don't need to apologize, but I just want you to know that I'm not going to change. And for, you know, I had an instructor who wanted to just one class on in terms of Black psychology. It was a pastoral counseling class. She wanted to talk about psychology in the Black church. One session. I said, oh no, I'm not gonna call her name. I know her name. Joe, you know her name. I said, oh no.
As I do.
I said, how can you just take years of history and culture and just compress it in one session and think that it's going to suffice what is there? So I think the biggest thing is we as a people need to let them know that we are aware of ourselves and our own self-worth. That one of the most intimidating things in the 60s and 70s that intimidated folks on the other side of the fence was the Afro. Because it showed that I'm not going to let superficial means deny my heritage. And when persons started wearing afros, boy, they were labeled as radical. Daddy's shaking his head, he knows. And it happened on both sides, in the white community and in the Black community. Do you know what it's like in the late 60s, early 70s for the pastor of St. Joseph to have an afro and sideburns?
Oh man, yeah.
And do the Black Power. It wasn't no regular shaking hands. It was like, man, come on, dap me up. I mean, hug me, brother. And it was a cultural awakening. But somewhere down the line, we allowed them to buy us out. And
we got Michael, we got brainwashed into believing that we had made a way into that white culture and white society. When we got the first Black elected to this, the first Black elected to that, then we thought we had arrived, thought we had made it. And we lessened our efforts to become strong. It was a struggle. You got called all kinds of names. You got threatened in a number of ways, but all I did was to keep you going, keep you moving. One of the dangers is when you get to the point where you get an achievement, if you aren't careful, the system will come and try to buy off the persons who have done a good job. They'll make a good job for you. I know one of my very good friends, bought him off, made him vice president of a major corporation. Then they put you on the board for University of North Carolina and make you almost become the chair of the board where you ain't gonna do nothing. That means that quiets down what you had done and you become a part of their vocal society. The danger is we cannot afford to be bought off and bought out by those persons who want to stop what is happening and just take the ones who made it and go ahead. I see Vernon Jordan passed. I had the privilege of working with Vernon Jordan back in the 60s when he was starting with voter registration. I was the co-directors of voter registration for the state of North Carolina. When he was doing the regional, for the Southern Regional Council, he was the director and I was the representative for the state of North Carolina. We both were mentored by the same man who really mentored Vernon and lifted him. But you look to see what happened to Vernon. Vernon almost got bought out, but he maintained. Some others who didn't quite make it got bought out. The danger of being bought out, as one of the squad ladies in the Congress said, follow the Benjamins. Whichever way the Benjamins go, that's where you better be careful folk will go. And they will put a number of Benjamins in your way. That's the dollar bills, the $5, the $100. Follow the Benjamins and you'll find out what people are trying to do. Once you get up in standing, they will put Benjamins in front of you and expect you to follow the Benjamins. And then they got you a part in their little select group. It's a tussle. And one of the things that I hope that we can train our young people not to be caught up in the thinking that there will ever be a real fair, equitable society for a long time. They will get but so far, and once you get so far, you'll get knocked down. Black folk always see it. Sorry to take this time to tell you, we had a boycott in Durham, and we were going to boycott downtown Durham at Christmas time. The so-called good Black folk with money came to us and told us, you're wasting your time. Don't do this. You don't know what to do. Let us go talk to the folk. They went and talked to the folk. And in essence, they told them what they've been saying to us, you ain't nothing but Black folk with dressed up. And so they said they found no difference in the way they treated them. Once you think you have achieved, you ain't in their society, you have to recognize to be who you are and what you are and fight for whoever you are and strive to make it so that the playing field is level for all the children and folk who follow you. It ain't changed much. Lord willing, I'll be 88 in a couple of weeks. I ain't seen much change in my 88 years of what I saw in 1947 when I got stopped for the first time by white folk in a car, driving my daddy's car. I don't know what I was doing driving this car. Up until now, it is but the same kind of thing that meets us. We have to recognize who we are and work toward eliminating the cause that's there until we prove to folk that what's killing America is institutional racism, white privilege, and white supremacy.
Okay, we got about 10 minutes left, but I want to throw this out there for y'all. Just a question along the lines of that. One of the things that we deal with, particularly where I am, and I know where Mike is too, and maybe where Steve is, but where I am and where Mike is, I know one of the issues we deal with are members of Black people who really want to go to these predominantly white churches that have status, that have clout, but don't speak to the issues of, as you talked about, Dad, racism and white privilege, and actually being able to make some changes. but they want to rush and go to these churches. So how do we handle encouraging people without I don't know the best way we can, encouraging people to go to a church that meets your needs for your people, and address that group of people that just wants to go to this big church, because they'll say things like, same with HBCUs, they'll say things like, well, it ain't gonna be nothing but black people in heaven, and when I get my job, I'm gonna have to deal with white folk too, so I might as well go to church with them. How do we address that?
It's very hard to address it because I even have it in New Haven, where yes, they call us a minority majority city, where 70% of our population is Hispanic and Black.
New Haven is black.
But
I don't care what you say.
hey, listen, I know that, but there are those who I consider to be, upper middle class, but they attend predominantly white churches.
You
And
can't
they
get them to
call it
even,
for
you can't get them to even stop by your church.
they may come by for a special day, but 9 times out of 10, they're going to be at predominantly white church because they tout diversity. They tout more cultural awareness, so to speak. So that's what they gravitate towards. And it's unfortunate because when you see what's happening, in our world, in our nation, regarding police brutality, regarding the former president, and yet when their churches are silent on it,
Right.
then they want to come to the Black church and say and get mad at us if we're not talking about it. Where those are the ones who I find are saying, where's the Black church? But what's your church saying about it? What is your pastor, who is white, saying about it? I've had members that actually went and joined predominantly white churches. And when George Floyd occurred, that church gave out Blue Lives Matter mugs to the police department. And the Black congregations, the Black members didn't say anything about it. But yet, if I were to do it, but yet they're the ones calling me, how come I'm not the one being as vocal? How come, what am I doing to address it? And I put it back on them. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't criticize the Black church, but not hold your church, who you say is affirming, who is multiracial, who is diverse, and you're not holding them to the same standard that you hold the Black church. Unfortunately, for Black people in general, we hold ourselves to such a higher standard, where those who are predominantly white, the standard is much lower, where they're able to get away with a lot. With the Black church, I think that the bar is set so much higher that's almost impossible to meet it in any issues. And so it's not fair. So I think they actually move away, for that, because they want to ignore the pressure that we're always under on a daily basis.
I think for that question itself, you know, I tell folk, it's your choice, different strokes for different folks. But when those strokes happen to you and you expect me to stand with you on that, how can I stand with you when I don't even know you? When you don't even come by and visit? So you said the right thing, Steve. Sometimes they come by to say hello, but they want to be at a place that touts being inclusive and diverse. When we know you look behind the curtain, it is not. For all that the problems that the Black church may present, there are more positives than negatives. The first thing is it helps us keep our sanity. On Sunday morning, you can go and shout and you can say amen and be with people who experience the similar things that you've gone through, and you're able to lay your burdens down. I think we forget a whole lot of stuff when we think we got a little money in our pockets. That is true, that you hear a person say, well, we got to live with those folk. Joe, as you said, I might as well worship with them. No, uh, I'm not a big proponent. Forgive me. I know people are watching this who attend this church. I'm not a big proponent of exchanging pulpits with other cultures. because I go over there. I've done it before, but it feels like you're on you're on display.
Mhm.
Will there be any real change, any effective communication from that? Um, what is the goal?
You get tired, Mike, of always having to be the one to assimilate.
Well, I'm not your Negro, as they
Right.
say.
Right.
You know, so I'm not the one. And so here in this city, we speak, liberal Chapel Hill. But I think I commend them on something that we did a couple of months back. Realize every place that's liberal ain't so liberal. And from that conversation, from those dialogues, we were able to create this service learning center for children of color who was slipping through the cracks in the learning process of this at-home learning. So it came when we had to talk about the disparities in education. And I'm proud to say for Chapel Hill, the majority of the money raised were raised by those other folk. But I had to make sure that our community understands that we can't always depend on other folk to clean up our own situations. As James would say, you ain't got to give me nothing. Just open the door. I get it myself. Just open the door. We can get it ourselves.
Well, look, we've been on just about an hour. So what I'm going to do is put a pin in it for today. We didn't even get to Lent today. Sorry about that, y'all. But however, I thought this was a great discussion. We can probably pick up on this again next week, because one of the things that really it disturbs me, because it's not so much about worshiping in a church necessarily with people that look like you, but it's worshiping in a church that, at least, as Steve said and Mike said too, addresses the concerns that are important to you and your community. And a lot of these predominantly white churches don't even address those concerns, and they gloss right over them. And it's just, how could you continue to go there when it isn't even, I'm not even dealing with the black and white stuff so much. It is black and white, but is that not even addressing stuff that's important to you or helping you in your community? It's crazy. So maybe that's something we can dig into a little bit more later. I'd love to talk more about that, and strategies that we could have too, because this is a church show. Strategies we could have to encourage people to really invest in those black churches that that speak to the needs that help their communities, which is what we try to do. All of us try to do, but something we could maybe talk about a little more. So I thank you, everybody. Thank you, technical support team again, Brother Lavender, Reverend Pace, Sister Frey. Want to thank Dad, Mike, and Steve. And as I always do, I'm done now. Steve is going to have a word. Mike's going to have a word. Dad's going to have the last word. And Dad, if you close us out in prayer, and we'll take it on home. Thanks, everybody.
Great conversation. Just really, Uncle Mike said it best. You gotta know who you are, and you really have to understand that no material things are actually going to define who you are. You have to be able to do that for yourself. If you really know your purpose, then there's so much you could get accomplished. There's so much you can actually do. So stay true to yourself. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with your surroundings, and watch how God can work miracles in your life.
I'd just like to thank you all for this moment of fellowship. Being by yourself, you don't see your family physically, but I look forward to this. Good to see my brother, my nephew, and more importantly, good to see my daddy and my new friends, Brother Lavender, Sister Frey, and Reverend Pace. And I want you to know there's a good feeling. It's 65 degrees here today in Chapel Hill, the southern part of heaven. Also Carrboro, the Paris of the Piedmont. So we're going to enjoy this day. And y'all have a blessed day. And sometimes you understand, look, I ain't tripping on how you treat me. I trip when how I react towards you. So hey, be yourself, know who you are, and words, love, peace, and soul, baby. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for the discussion today. It always helps to look back and to see The road is in front of us. And I'm remembering the words of that young poetess who spoke at the inauguration for President Biden. The closing part of her poem, she said, "We see a light at the end of the tunnel, but when can we become the light at the end of the tunnel?" And I pray that we can become the light at the end of the tunnel that will take us through this racist society, through this upside down world, so that the light that we want to see at the end of the tunnel can be us who make darkness no longer possible, nor seen in communities, in lives, in churches, and all around us. So we have a struggle to go, but God is able, brought us this far, and He didn't bring us this far to leave us. So, gracious Master, we thank You for this day. Give us strength, give us comfort, give us Your word, Your will. Help us to do just, love mercy, and walk humbly with You, and we can be Your servants. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, everybody. And as always, panelists, just stay on for a minute. Thanks, everybody, for watching us. We truly appreciate you.